Hello, this is Ash Teeter with West Coast Populist News Reading Between the Headlines podcast. Awake, not woke. Opinions are not facts. Make up your own mind. So, we're starting out here on the West Coast Populist website with the article by Liberty Lady, Perception, Division, and Hate. And I'll read a little segment about it because it's definitely relative to what we're seeing locally and around the country. It reads, just because people disagree on something political does not mean they hate each other. It's sad that this has to be said. The perception that one side always hates the other side is just false. I don't hate people I disagree with, and neither do you. However, our perception is geared towards hate because that's what the media touts every time two groups disagree. One group is victimized, while the other is labeled a hate group. This hate narrative is driven by the people in power and media to encourage more division amongst the people. If they can manipulate our perception of each other, then they can influence us to hate each other. The politicians and the media are lobbied by wealthy special interest groups to push this hate narrative so they can divide and conquer our minds, hearts, and wallets. And that is so true. We're going to move on to some local infrastructure type stuff here. This is... there's some snow on the roads last week. And it's probably going to come back this week. So be careful when you're driving 36, 299, anywhere. I mean, even up in the hills behind Arcata, people get some snow up there too. So this right here, this is road charge, and it's an innovative funding mechanism that allows the state to still collect money after they're, pushing their woke EV agenda. Pretty much, if the gas tax disappears, then they got this in place where they can say, hey, now we can charge everybody based on mileage they've driven, instead of gas that they purchased. But that's also kind of adds a more invasive feature because they're I guess everybody has to submit how much mileage they drive, or maybe your car will just automatically track it. I don't know exactly how that's with electric vehicles. Maybe they do automatically track your miles and submit them to the state. But anyways, we've got right here, this is a PG&E to hike energy bills on top of already sky-high rates. So yes, the utility company says it's planning a 16.3% increase to all energy bills compared with rates of January 2022 to account for inflation, and around $13 billion in new investments in maintenance and facilities. That's on top of already eye-popping energy rates that are spiking California's bills, mainly driven by high demand and low supply of gas in California. The California Public Utilities Commission, which oversees the rate hikes, plans to make a decision on the planned increase in the fall of 2023. But, let's talk about that just a little bit here. So, if PG&E is raising rates because they've got to make these improvements in the infrastructure, and if it was just for normal purposes, I guess that might be all right. But what if the infrastructure that they're making is for the EV rollout? It's so they're passing this insane legislation that Newsom and his cronies are working out to push on all the people. And yet they're making the citizens, pay the bill for this, just severely limited, plan or focus. The whole cart before the horse thing we mentioned before. It's just pretty silly. But we're gonna move on to something else here. Up in the local happenings, we've got More than 1,200 Californians are getting cash from guaranteed income experiments. In all the programs represented, the largest modern U.S. experiment in unrestricted cash payments, with more than 12,000 Californians expected to receive more than $180 million in public and private funds. Nowhere else have so many guaranteed income pilot programs launched at the same pace. All of these pilots are seeking to demonstrate what's possible across the country for state and federal policy, said Sean Klein, the Associate Director of Stanford Basic Income Lab, which is tracking more than 100 pilot programs across the country. It's safe to say California is one of the states that has the greatest scope of fund to larger scale version of these guaranteed income pilots. And along with this, they're going to do the reparations thing is supposedly going to roll out in California too. So we'll see how all this works out for the taxpayers, the citizens that don't get that funding. But this one was interesting also. Let's see, do they have like a video for this one, or is it just yeah. Okay. Oh. Let's see here. This is customers upset after unusual activity within Tri-County's bank system shuts down all ATMs and other services. I mean, I'd be a little bit worried too. I don't know. Let's see. It says, bank representatives told CBS 13 Monday in investigations that's ongoing that they're working to determine the scope and if any of the data has been compromised. The system's currently offline as of February 13th. They're all the bank's ATMs, company email and phone lines, and the customer service call center. The bank's debit and credit transactions are online, as well as mobile banking. All branches are open, though withdrawals are not possible at this time. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. But anyways, moving on here, we got Coastal Commission approves Eureka's ban on digital signs. On the last day of the monthly meetings, Friday, the California Coastal Commission approved a bid by the city of Eureka to ban all new digital signs and billboards. I'm just delighted. We think they're really ugly, said Michelle McKeegan, head of Keep Eureka Beautiful's Tree Project, a volunteer community advocacy group that supports the legislation. They're ugly, they flash, and they often garish. People just don't like them. Digital billboard signs are LED displays that can rapidly change the images they project. According to the Commission's report on the ordinance, there are 7 digital signs along Eureka's coast, some of which are visible from coastal trails. Yeah, and it's kind of got a mixed feeling on that, just because it might be more environmentally friendly if you're not having to replace signs every time you want to change the message. But I can see the keeping it natural and not having a bunch of light pollution going on. I can see that aspect of it as well. And this here is Cal Poly Humboldt is bringing back Lumberjack Days, but it won't be like the old Lumberjack Days. Yeah, this morning Cal Poly Humboldt's Gutzwarack Student Activities Center announced that the legendary Humboldt State Bacchanalia is returning to campus this April in a slightly different form. It'll be 2 weeks of stuff going on in the quad, including on most days, rockin' bands. What else is going on besides these rockin' bands? The schedule, for which you can find below, well, Gutzwarack Associate Director Michael Moore, probably not the Michael Moore you're thinking of, the Fahrenheit 9/11 guy, or whatever, one of those other documentaries, but probably not that guy. Told the Outpost that the timber sports are out for this year. No log rolling, no axes, no buck saws, certainly no chainsaws. But there will be several make-and-take activities for the students to participate in, he mentioned. Particularly clay, paint, slime, And plant a plant. Fun, fun, fun. The general public is welcome to come to campus and enjoy the bands. But the make and take activities are for the students only. Please, you're an adult. You can play with clay at home. Yeah. Well, we're going to go down and read through a couple of the comments there that I found interesting. Yeah. Someone said damage control, and that's probably for the housing crisis with the protests that just went on. A new round of whack-a-mole. Someone else. Yeesh. Middle school crafts instead of timber sports. Not even a chili cook-off. Yeah, kind of downhill from what it used to be, huh? Lame. My favorite part was watching guys take a sledgehammer to an old junk car, someone said. Racing beds down B Street. I guess that used to be a thing. No Volkswagen bugs. The finish line was next to the psychology building. When the race was over, people would walk over to a lumberjack town where the soccer field is now for the miniskirt contest. I remember the lumberjack days back in the 90s, getting wasted, listening to and watching Skank and Pickle play on the grass field between the science and forestry buildings. Someone else said, totally forgot about Skank and Pickle. Someone else says, not much for lumberjack days without the old dog rolling or other logging competitions up at Fern Lake. Another person says, lame. Someone else says, I didn't scroll down before posting and I saw that you beat me to it. About 5 hours, no less. Yeah. You can't do this with alcohol. Someone says, what about the miniskirt contest and the Volkswagen race from the library circle to B Street? But anyways, definitely a wilder time. And someone else had also suggested to me that, like, being a polytechnic university, they might want to have these, like, hands-on, kind of logger stuff, because it's like, kind of physics right there, it's kind of like a real world application almost of how stuff works. Gotta know how to use tools and do stuff. Pretty crazy, huh? But anyways, we're gonna move on to another little section here. It says scandals. Starts out, and Oakland fires police chief for alleged misconduct. Cover up. Says, this is San Francisco AP. The Oakland Police Department lost its 7th head of police in as many years Wednesday over the alleged cover-up of the officer's misconduct in a scandal that threatens to extend the 2 decades of the officer's oversight, the longest of any police department in the country. Democratic Mayor Xing Tao said at the news conference that she was firing the police chief Lerone Armstrong after the probe concluded that the chief and the department failed to properly investigate and discipline a sergeant who was involved in a hit and run with his patrol car, and in a separate incident, the officer fired his service weapon inside an elevator at police headquarters. That does sound kind of like some serious stuff there. But coming up next here, I'm pretty sure this is like an opinion piece and talking about local music by Colin Yeo at North Coast Journal. And the article title is called One World. And I like that they started it out talking about the train derailment disaster that's going on in Ohio. So we'll read this real quick here. I'm pretty horrified at the lack of comprehensive coverage of the ongoing vinyl chloride train derailment catastrophe. If you don't like my bummer intros, skip ahead to the rather dynamic week of live music. For the rest of you, hear me out. At this point, it seems like the original run of HBO's Chernobyl got more print and attention than the current disaster in East Palestine, Ohio. And while I accept that the American media is generally adverse to covering anything with the word Palestine in it, it seems like something far worse than that reflex is at work. At least the Deepwater Horizon spill got around-the-clock coverage. That's been discarded in this case, and the intervening decade plus since the disaster has been nothing but a bipartisan orgy of deregulation and anti-labor legislation. It's worth remembering that before this gets memory holed and forgotten by everyone, except the unlucky multitudes who will be drinking poison from this mega-sized Superfund site for generations, that the ostensibly left-wing party in this country so recently voted to break up a railroad strike, whose participants explicitly demanded changes that could have prevented this. And that was good old Joe Brandon there. And what do they call him? Amtrak Joe? He's all about those trains. Yeah, and what? Kind of funny how this happened, but I'd really like to see someone talking about this, looking outside our little, local sphere and talking about a national issue that, not being, just like, oh, it's, it's a Democrat-run thing, so they must be doing the right thing. We're just going to move on. Nothing to see here. It's all good. They're actually looking at it for what it is, and I appreciate that. Thank you. But anyways, up next we have Supervisor Bone makes a misogynistic comment at the Chamber of Commerce event. Yeah, Chamber of Commerce event. Bone's comment came at the Eureka Chamber of Commerce Cocktails and Crooners fundraiser in 2023 awards gala at the Sequoia Conference Center, which was attended by hundreds of people. When a tour and dinner for 8 donated by a local woman-owned restaurant came up for bid, Bones said that if the bids got high enough, the owner would serve topless, as recounted to the Journal by multiple attendees. And yeah, it's I don't know why he said that, really, and it is 2023, and it's pretty easy to get canceled these days. So, anyways, on to this little article. This is from Chico. As mom sues after discovering a school district identified daughter as a male and counseled her on breast binding. So yeah, it's kind of goes along with the grooming, I guess, or just keeping secrets from parents, telling children like hey, feel safe to talk to your teachers, but not to your parents. Getting counsel in that respect, and parents just don't really appreciate that. But anyways, let's see what she has to say.
California mom is speaking out and suing the Chico Unified School District for allegedly secretly transitioning her 11-year-old daughter without her knowledge or consent. The mom says the school's action violated her parental rights. Senior correspondent Claudia Count is live in Sausalito, California with the story. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Mike. Schools call parents about their child for all sorts of reasons, but one California mom is suing because of the phone call she didn't get, the one telling her that her daughter was socially transitioning to a different gender.
I just want them to stop keeping parents in the dark.
California mom Aurora Regino's 11-year-old daughter was living a double life at Sierra View Elementary School. The 5th grader was a girl at home and a boy named Jaden at school. Regino is suing the Chico Unified School District to put a stop to their parental secrecy policy, which she says allows students to switch genders without parental notification or approval.
They were talking to my daughter about different support groups in town to help her with her transition, and then discuss breast binding with my daughter that I had no knowledge of.
Regino's daughter has since identified once again as a female.
Parents have the right to direct the upbringing and education of their kids.
Kate Anderson is senior counsel and director of the Center for Parental Rights at Alliance Defending Freedom.
These schools who are coming up with these policies where they push a child towards a gender transition and lie to parents about that are violating the United States Constitution.
The Chico Unified School District declined our interview request, but addressed Regino's lawsuit at a recent school board meeting.
We are currently researching these issues and consulting state agencies.
Emotions from parents ran high.
Not every kid seeking emotional support is a candidate for gender transition.
My daughter, the last 2 years, has been asked for her pronouns on the first day of school.
Policies of school districts that say if a child says, "Don't tell my parents," the educators will not tell their parents, essentially condones deception. In fact, it's teaching children it's okay for you to lie to your family. And I think that's a terrible lesson for young people.
As for Regino, she says her lawsuit isn't about money, it's about protecting parental rights.
The goal is to make sure that this doesn't happen to any more families and kids.
Regino says her daughter is seeing a new school counselor who believes that this little girl was manipulated. The Chico Unified School District is expected to file a response to the federal lawsuit soon. It's a story we will be following. Mike?
Don't mess with Mom. Claudia Cowan, thanks very much.
Yeah, and that's so very true. Yeah. So we'll talk about that one just a little bit here. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what other people think about. Gonna leave any comments on the video or on the article. Share your opinions on what you think about schools. Telling your kids, if you have kids, not to, that it's all right to keep secrets. And I'm lucky enough that my daughter has not been, she's only 3.5 right now, getting closer to 4. She hasn't had to deal with that yet, but I don't think I'm all right with that kind of thing at all. I mean, just all the stuff they kind of push on kids these days. It's like, but let kids be kids. Don't try and turn them against their parents or keep secrets from parents. It's just not a good thing to do. But we're gonna move on to some local housing stuff here. So this is Cal Poly Humboldt expands off-campus housing options for fall 2023. And this was after they had pretty much told the anyone that wasn't a freshman that they just had to go live in a motel. Cal Poly Humboldt has expanded its residential housing to accommodate an additional 250 students starting in fall 2023 through leases of the Super 8 motels and Motel 6 in Arcata. The residential properties will be operated similarly at the nearby Comfort Inn, another temporary housing option for students, leased last year. Comfort Inn has been a successful program with positive feedback from the students. The new leases bring a total number of temporary off-campus housing to 350 beds, the most off-campus housing the university has ever been able to provide. Cal Poly Humboldt is continuing to explore additional housing options amid the anticipated influx of first-year transfers. Yeah, but I guess this might not be the updated one, but the updated one, they pretty much rolled back on what they're saying and said that they were going to, allow the students back on. And they had also brought up the issue of potentially housing students on a barge in the bay. And I don't think that one flew, quite well with the response from the students and the community itself, just because there's definite potential safety concerns with kids, college kids especially, staying on a barge where they might be doing normal college kids things such as a little bit of partying here and there, and falling off a barge into the bay probably wouldn't leave a good rapport with the community for HSU pulling some kind of stunt like that. But anyways, it's California homelessness. Where are the state's billions going? Here's the new best answer. In Sacramento, there's a word that keeps popping up during the discussions about the state's homelessness crisis: accountability. Governor Gavin Newsom has scolded cities and counties for failing to get more people off the streets. Hundreds of millions in state spending notwithstanding, Californians demand accountability and results, not settling for the status quo, the governor said last November. Republicans in the legislature have called for an audit of the state's homelessness spending. Democrats are still absorbing the last one from 2021. But many want to see the state's money come with strings attached. This week, Assemblyman member Luz Rivas and Arleta Democrat introduced a bill that would demand tangible results from local governments before they receive homelessness grants, mirroring an idea from the governor's own budget proposal. The increasingly bipartisan chorus points out two stark, seemingly contradictory trends. The state keeps spending more to address the crisis, and the crisis keeps getting worse. So where, they ask, is all the money going? And yeah, we've kind of asked this, locally too, or at least I have at city council and the board of supervisors. Like, when you're taking money like this and putting it into like a bureaucracy, what are you going to get out of it versus like the private enterprise? And that's what this next video is about here.
The sheriff's department was handing out in Garberville and Redway.
Okay. Oh boy.
This is good.
Okay. Can't wait. Informational sheet. So the sheriff handed this out?
This is what they handed out in Garberville and Redway.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at most of this stuff, Arcata, Eureka, Klamath, Eureka, Trinidad, Rio Del, Trinidad, Samoa, Humboldt County Fairground. That's a good place for homeless people to go, right?
Oh, wow.
Mad River RV Park. They're going to take a lot of them, right? Lazy J RV Park. Eureka Mobile. Here's Veteran Services, which is probably the best thing they actually have on the paper.
Yeah.
But then we go over to the other side.
Okay.
We have Day Center. We have an information number they can call. We have Arcata House. Here's Betty's Showers at St. Vincent de Paul. Remember, we're talking about 70-something miles away.
Yeah, this is not accessible.
So, Youth Service Bureau. This is the counterproductive things that I'm saying. So, we have resources here in Eureka, everybody says, but I haven't seen them. You see little sputs and spatters of it and everything. They'll get on their high horse for about a week or two, and they'll start promoting, like, look what we're doing, and then all of a sudden it goes away again. We have a group in here called Uplift Eureka, which I really respect. Unfortunately, what are they doing? I got a woman over there by Humboldt Waste Management that I've been trying to get a hold of for 2 weeks to come help her. She's ready for housing, and I've been kind of like letting her be there because she's broken up and stuff, but I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody. So in Garberville and Redway, we have no services.
Yeah.
And they get a shower once a month, providing that they walk maybe from Garberville to Redway, where the showers are. But here, we have all these services, and we have a ton of nonprofits.
Yeah.
But did I tell you John Shelter in New Directions is the only one out here engaging the homeless population? Disconnect. But the reason why I'm a social enterprise is because we earn our own money. When I was a nonprofit with North Coast Resource Center, the old Arcata Endeavor, all I heard is, why don't they create a nonprofit that's self-supporting? Oh, wait. I did. It's called the social enterprise. You can Google it, look it up. I'm a business owner that runs a business to provide a social atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John.
This is pretty interesting.
That is. I will. Yes. I keep getting a good.
You got to get a good picture of this because none of it has anything to do with Redway or Garberville.
Yeah.
There used to be a South Park cartoon, and it was about homelessness.
Okay.
And the funniest part about it, it was so real. South Park has this like little thing where they push towards the reality.
Yeah.
And basically they got all the homeless out of their town because they told them that there was a circus in town, and there was free food and housing in this other city.
Right.
And then so all the homeless people went to that other city.
Yeah.
And then the other city said, oh, I know what they did, so we'll do it again. So they wrote these things that this other city had all these resources and stuff, so the homeless went there.
Yeah.
In a certain way, that is so true.
South Park nailed it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that one a little bit here too. And there's the whole homeless issue here with the state funding. I mean, what I really like what that guy was talking about, because he says that, you know, he got outside the state funding and he's just like pretty much going it solo outside of that. And I really think that if we could get some of the city or the county people just to, you know, cut loose some of these funds to some go-getters like that in the private, you know, sector, that, you know, we might come up with some solutions that actually work and actually have, you know, follow-up and talk to these people and treat them like people. But anyways, we're going to move on here to another section. This is the local crime watch section, and this is on the LCP website. We now have the Humboldt County Sheriff stuff beaming right in, and this is, unfortunately, it's talking about a missing man located deceased in Trinidad. And it says it on February 13, 2023, about 2:14 p.m., the Humboldt County Sheriff Officer Emergency Communication Center received a call regarding human remains found at Baker's Beach in Trinidad. And that's really too bad. I think I had read another article about it on probably a couple of the different other local news sites. And it's really sad, you know, to see someone, I think is kind of younger guy, maybe it was like 20s or 30s or something like that. It was really sad to hear. But, anyways, Woodley Island traffic stop. And this is on February 15, 2023, about 11:40 p.m., Humboldt County Sheriff's deputies on patrol in Eureka conducted a traffic stop for a vehicle code violation on Star Drive. So that's got all kinds of things that pop up on the sheriff update here. So it's from small things to, you know, bigger things, like unfortunately people dying. It's a useful tool. And then here's the last update on this missing mushroom hunter woman that, like, we've been following the story last week, and her body was eventually found. It's the body of missing Tacoma, Washington woman found near Gasky, Del Norte Sheriff says. After more than 2 weeks of combing the densely wooded mountainsides near Gasky, searchers found the body of a 71-year-old Tacoma, Washington woman at about 6 p.m. Saturday, according to the Del Norte County Sheriff. According to initial reports from the searchers, Vanna Sisofa was found under a log. Sheriff Garrett Scott told the Wild River Outpost he said that she may have died of exposure, but added that an investigation is necessary to determine the cause of death. And that's not too hard to believe, given how cold it's been getting. Yeah, it's been getting super cold, and if you get stuck outside in the elements overnight, I could totally see it happening. And once again, totally tragic. Thoughts and prayers out to her family there. Next up, we have family members convicted of inflicting seriously bodily injury on another person. A Mendocino County Superior Court judge returned from its speedy deliberation midday Friday to announce that it had found 2 trial defendants guilty as charged. Defendants James Aaron Payne, age 51, of Fort Bragg, and Logan Anthony Payne, age 22, of Fruitland, Idaho, were both found guilty of committing a battery that inflicted serious bodily injury on another person, a felony. Serious bodily injury is defined by the California legislature as meaning a serious impairment of physical condition, including but not limited to the following: loss of consciousness, concussion, bone fracture, protracted loss of impairment of function of any bodily member or organ, a wound requiring extensive suturing, and serious disfigurement. But yeah, that's another tragic one to hear there. Family violence. No good, no good. This is, yes, 1 dead after explosions and fire in a Weaverville home. On Friday, February 10th, 2023, at approximately 11:30 p.m., explosions and a structure fire were reported in the area of Main Street, Washington Street in Weaverville, California. Law enforcement units and fire personnel responded to the scene. Upon their arrival, the structure had been engulfed in flames, and entry could not be made. The fire was suppressed by fire personnel, and no other structures were damaged. During the course of the investigation, a subject was located deceased within the structure. Based on the preliminary findings, it is believed that the identity of the deceased individual is known and the family members have been contacted. Okay, well, we've got one more video here. It's pretty interesting, but first we're going to go to a little blip on LCP products here.
Are you tired of the woke local media? One way you can support Lost Coast Populace is by purchasing our stylish clothing and accessories. Every purchase helps us keep fighting the good fight and leaves you as a beacon of the growing patriot ideology within our community.
So, as we are going through it, we've located a box. And in the box, we found something that was highly unusual. We found sealed and completed ballots, 41 ballots in this particular box. And we thought to ourselves, oh, that is weird. You know, it doesn't seem right to us, but we're not election people. Okay, we do other types of crimes and things of that nature. But when we saw this, we thought something's off here, but we didn't know if we had a crime at this particular point because there was a recent change in election law, and people could turn in ballots on behalf of another. There were drop boxes, there was multi-day voting, things of that nature. So we thought, you know what, let's just photograph them, leave them in place, let the election proceed unimpeded. So that's what we ended up doing. And around this time, we found that Shakir Khan was actually running for Lodi City Council in District 4. And ultimately, he wins that election, and in January 2021, he was sworn in and took his seat. But that didn't stop our investigation. We continued to investigate, and as we were investigating, we worked with the DA's office on what we were finding and issuing different warrants and things of that nature. And ultimately, Shakir Khan was arraigned. The DA pressed charges on him on our initial findings, and he was arraigned in court. And that's when, it kind of hit the local news that a council member had been arraigned on fraud and internet gambling and money laundering and things of that nature. So that was kind of a big deal for us. And that matter right now is still pending. It's my understanding that the probable cause hearing just wrapped up, I believe it was yesterday, where he was held to answer on all the charges that were pending on that particular case. Now this is back in 2021. And during 2021, people were complaining around the nation, like the sheriff had said, about their concern with the way the 2020 election had been run and the shortcomings therein. And our county was no different, and we were aware of it, but we didn't have any proof or anything like that. We had some anomalies here that just seemed weird, but we didn't know if it was illegal because of the change in the voting law. So as the 2022 midterm election began to spin up, some concerned citizens continued to reach out. They would attend our local board meetings and voice their concerns and ask for a change back to the way things, quote unquote, used to be with one-day voting, in-person voting, no drop boxes, things of that nature. So they were very vocal at these board of supervisors meetings, and as we attend those, we listen to what they had to say. Ultimately, a citizen contacted us and said, hey, I've gone through the voter rolls because I was looking into some of the stuff going on with my grandma. And as I was going through the voter rolls, I noticed some anomalies and some weird things, and I'd like to have a meeting. So ultimately, we did take that meeting. We sat down with them, and this person showed us the voter roll analysis that they had conducted. And sure, there was a lot of weird things that we saw in the voter rolls. Things that we didn't really understand were legal, not legal. It was just odd to us. But when she had pointed out a particular address in Lodi District 4, that's when it clicked in our head, wait a minute, that's Shakir Khan's address. Those are the 41 ballots that we saw. Is this legal? Is this proper? We don't know, but now we're going to look into it. And so ultimately, as we're looking into it, we located roughly 70 names that were registered to either Shakir Khan's house, his email, or his phone number that he had that we knew were factually his. And so that's 70 people that he was able to register using some sort of combination thereof. So through our previous investigation, we had access to his emails, and we did an analysis of his emails. And this is where we found on the one on the left is all the email receipts from the Secretary of State. When you go online to register to vote, you get an email response from the Secretary of State saying, we received your request to vote online or to register to vote. And so as you can see, these are all coming back to Shakir Khan's personal email that he used. The one on the right is just a sampling of the voter rolls that we saw of all the people registered to vote at that particular address. And so that became a little concerning to us. But again, is this illegal? I don't know. Because you have to understand is when we go to the academy and do all that fun stuff, at no point are we ever taught about the election code and things of that nature. So we stick to the penal code, the vehicle code, things like that. But we knew that there was a potential problem here, and if this was criminal, we were going to have to do something about it. And so while we educated ourselves on what the election code was, how to handle it, what the potential violations were, that's when we learned that every 2 years, the law dictates that the register of voter has to purge the previous election after I think it's 22 to 24 months, somewhere around there. And we were coming up to that timeline, and we were concerned that, hey, there might be evidence of a crime that is occurring here. And so what we decided to do, if we're going to bring this to court, if this is in fact criminal, we have to do it the proper way and adhere to the rules of evidence. So we executed a warrant on this register of voter to say, hey, preserve all documents as it relates to the 2020 election. Because again, we didn't know what we were going to find, if anything, but we wanted to make sure it didn't get purged. And I want to point out that the register of voter has been extremely helpful, forthcoming, and responsive to us. And I think that's important to note because, something like this, just imagine the pressure that the register of voter and her staff are under when the sheriff's office shows up with a search warrant, right? But they were professional throughout the entire time. And at no time is the register of voter or her staff a target of this investigation. I want to make that very clear. So as we're going through the voter roll, and we got our own copy directly from the register of voter, we started going through it. And this is, we pulled the ballot envelopes. And as we're going through the ballot envelopes, we thought, hey, something jumps out at us. I don't know if you guys can see it, but all the handwriting seems to be the same, right? Even looks like maybe even the same pen. We don't know. It's highly unusual. Again, is this illegal? Not necessarily, but it is odd. It is odd. It does give us some concern. So we decided we were going to look further into it. Now, if you recall, back in September of 2021, or was it September when he was arraigned? Do you recall when he was arraigned by the DA?
Yeah, I think that's a super interesting story, and I just like how the local sheriff's department just jumped on it, and how they were actually listening to the people in the community, at the local city council meetings and board of supervisors meetings, and acting upon that. And the fact that it was a citizen that did this research, turned it over to the sheriffs, and they acted on it and took it seriously. That is